probably one of your more non-traditional students, but I'm so looking forward to the journey. I really kind of know what I want in terms of the specialization that I'm really interested in. I teach educational law, so I'm really interested in legal issues impacting schools, particularly students with disabilities. So I've been kind of a researcher of that issue, but now I really want the formal legal training to maybe become an expert witness, those types of things. And I just have that very clear set idea, but the only really thing between me and kind of going to law school is kind of the LSAT. And at my advanced age, it is a barrier, but I really have a different mindset than I would, I think, if I was like in my 20s taking it. But I think I told you, Steve, the other thing that I'm really is an issue for me, and I don't want it to kind of be the dominant thing, but I have two young sons, and haven't gone to college yet, but the idea of getting a scholarship. So I want to be competitive, so I don't put that financial burden on my family at this stage. And I'm only applying to one school. I'm a faculty member here at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, and Arkansas is a good school, but it's not a top 25 school. So I'm very much a realist. I understand that. But at the same time, I really want to secure a solid financial package. And your blog has been so helpful in terms of thinking about logistics, things like even when I take the LSAT, applying early, really distinguishing myself, not only in terms of the fact of, having maybe graduate school and years of experience, but also getting that application in early before all these other folks. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I've done my research. I've been thinking about taking this for a while, looked at your stuff like over a year ago, but with COVID, both my kids are in virtual school now. So there's been a lot of, changes, but I'm really focused on kind of an early summer test, either June or July. And I know they haven't made that announcement yet. So that's just me in a nutshell. I'm really looking forward to kind of approaching the exam from, like you point out, this idea of, and I'm not there yet, but getting to love logic games, just approaching it from like this perspective of kind of empowerment. And I know it sounds corny, but I know test anxiety can get in the way. And as I said, I'm trying to kind of approach the exam through mastery and gradual mastery. And I'm hoping that, your course and some other materials will help. But I really want a focused approach.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the background on your story and your reasons for going to law school. That certainly matters quite a bit. And I'm glad, of course, that my resources have been useful to you as well.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't like the word non-traditional. I know it's a convention that people use, but The thing is that most law students are actually not directly out of college. There are many folks who are into their careers. And so it doesn't mean that law schools will value you any less. If anything, they value you more because, as you said, you have very specific, deliberate reasons for why you want to go. You said expert witness, you have deep experience in the special educational space. And so they will recognize that and value it highly. And you will certainly be extremely employable upon graduation, given that. You also mentioned that scholarships are incredibly important to you, given that you don't want to place a burden on your family, which makes a lot of sense, of course. But you also said you want to apply to only one school.
Right.
So think about it from the school's perspective. If they know that you have no other options and they know that you're tied to that particular area, they may want you there, but are they going to give you a lot of money?
Right.
You can get a higher LSAT score, and that will certainly help a great deal in terms of getting scholarships. But another thing that you can do is apply to more than one school.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I'd suggest. It doesn't impact.
I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of that. And I grew up in New York, so I'm very familiar. I grew up in the Bronx. I went to Binghamton for my undergraduate, so I'm very familiar with the New York area and moved out here. And unlike New York City, where you have like a ton of law schools within a very small geographical area, here I am in Arkansas, and in the entire state, there are only two law schools, both of them public. I'm not too far from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where there's a law school there. But Steve, in my situation, literally geographically, there are slim pickings. You know what I mean? And but I do like the idea of maybe applying to one or two other places nearby, and relatively nearby. And obviously, I'm not going to commute 2 hours each way to go there, but potentially even just to kind of say, hey, Tulsa offered me this package, whatever. But I am geographically limited. I mean, that is a real concern. And I do think, from what I've heard, that Arkansas, being a state school, and their tuition is comparatively not, terrible compared to these like private schools. But the main thing with them is that if you have the numbers, they will give you, scholarship money, and in my particular case, I completed my undergraduate degree over 20 years ago. I have like a 3.4. So it's okay, but it's not stellar, but it's solid. I took a challenging major and stuff like that. But I really do think, for me, if I could score in that one mid-50 range, and maybe I shouldn't set my sights lower. I mean, I hear your story. I read your story. A year, and you were very honest about your trials and tribulations. I mean, of going through this and things that you would do differently if you had to do it again. But you did the blood, sweat, and tears route for a year, and the result was that 175, I believe, something like that. Yeah. From my vantage point, I don't know if that's attainable, but I think if I could score in the 160s, mid 160s, that would secure a good bit of money, and not necessarily a full one, but it would secure, because I think they're 75 percentile LSAT. At least, when I looked at the report, I think it's the 509 report for 2020. It's like a 159. So I think anything over the 160s would definitely secure admission. But the question becomes, I mean, if I applied there with like a high 160 something, that there would be some scholarship money, because that would be so high above their 75 percentile LSAT ranking. But yeah, those are
certainly. Yeah. Don't ever limit yourself. One of my roles as a coach is to push you to remove those self-imposed limits and help you to dream bigger. I mean, it took me a year, and you don't have a year. You said June or July, which is fine. You can take it in June or July and still apply at the very beginning of the cycle in the fall. And speaking now in mid-February, that gives you approximately 4, maybe 5 months. And I know you've been following me for quite a while. Yes. That's enough time to make anything happen, given your prior exposure to and background with the LSAT and admissions. And then, of course, getting into the nitty-gritty of things with my course. But you can certainly get to the high 160s or beyond in 4 to 5 months. And you also could take it in August or September if you wanted to, and they haven't released the exact dates yet, right. But you could take it then and still apply at the very beginning of the cycle. And applying early actually matters a lot less than it used to, given how things have changed over time, given, on the one hand, a recent decline in the number of applicants, and now it's higher, the number of applicants is higher, but we're also during COVID. So COVID, of course, is a randomization factor where it has all sorts of implications that may or may not last long term. But applying early regardless doesn't matter as much as it used to. Secondly, you also spoke about the geographic factor, the geographic limitation as well. And so I also want to problematize that a little bit by thinking, well, can we remove that limit as well? I'm not suggesting that your family move or anything, but online education during COVID, you said your kids are doing school virtually. Who knows how long COVID will last? I mean, vaccinations are rolling out, but that could take a while. And it's going to have long-term effects where you could potentially do the majority or possibly all of law school online if the ABA changes its policies, which there's a lot of pressure to do. So you may have a lot of different options available for law school, not just Arkansas or Tulsa, Oklahoma, and 2-hour-long commutes and such. You may be able to do a lot online, and then there are people who will relocate temporarily just for a week or two periodically to do whatever in-person requirements there are. But all of this is very much up in the air. But regardless, schools are aware of that, and you could apply to a wider variety simply for the negotiation leverage.
Yeah, I really like that, Steve. That's something that I hadn't, really thought about in terms of the leverage. And I have read, because I've been interested, for several. This is not just something that happened like last week. I've been thinking of going back, and it's navigating, a spouse that's working full time like me, and two younger, kids, 9 and 11, and just trying to kind of navigate that. And looking at a point in my career, I'm a tenured faculty member now. I'm a full professor, so the publisher pressure, the publisher parish pressure that I had earlier in my career has kind of gone down a considerable bit. So I just think the timing is right, and that's good. Hey, what do you think about like June and July? Do you think they'll still be going with the flex version?
I'm 99.9% certain of that, given where we're at. I mean, they're going to have to make an announcement soon, either way, but I'm almost certain, given the situation. And even I honestly think it'll be flex long term, even beyond COVID, given how long they've been doing it for already, and given all of the logistical advantages. There are pros and cons to any format, of course, but yeah. I think it'll stay flex long term. The one potential change would be that maybe they add in a fourth experimental section at some point, or maybe even a fifth, 5 sections total. But we'll see what happens. But they'll announce that soon if they're going to do it.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that announcement, but I agree with you. One thing I have talked to, actually, it was a friend of mine whose wife, he's a faculty member. His wife took the November LSAT Flex, and she actually got into Arkansas, so she'll be attending.
Nice.
And so that's awesome. So there's kind of like precedent, so to speak, for me. And one of the things that she said that was one thing that she liked about the LSAT Flex was just simply less time. 3 sections, no experimental. And just from a I guess almost like the time working on an exam, it's like less time, right? The other thing that she mentioned, which was not necessarily a benefit, was this idea that there was a period where the online observer kind of had to like scope around their room, their area, their workspace, to kind of make sure that there weren't any illegal materials. And that was a little disconcerting in the sense that you're trying to focus on this LSAT, and then someone is kind of like kind of saying, well, let me see if there's any watches around here or other illegal items around your desk, and you had to kind of move the camera around and things like that. But overall, she thought it was a good option, and that it is going to be interesting to see long term. That would be the interesting thing. I agree. I think probably for the foreseeable future, I mean, just with the vaccination rollout, I couldn't imagine that by early summer that they're going to say, all right, we're ready to open up test sites and take the digital exam. I just think that logistically they're not ready yet. But you're right, they're going to have to make that decision soon.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, and yes, I agree that the flex being shorter is definitely preferable for most people. I think most people like that better, as I would as well. One thing I should suggest is that mention, to avoid any potential stress about the flex, is that the proctors, that's just bad proctoring for them to interrupt the exam to look around for the security check. They should do that, and typically do that by default before the exam starts, before the timing starts. And so if they don't do that room scan before, and they're about to start your exam, you should remind them and say, hey, hold up, aren't you supposed to do the room scan? Which might sound weird for you to remind them of their security procedures, but better that than they interrupt. And of course, they should always stop the time if they're going to interrupt you for any reason. And you can ask them at the beginning as well, hey, just in case you need to stop the exam for any reason, can you please pause the clock? Because every second counts, as you know. And there are proctors who are just like, hey, how's it going? And you'd be like, can we talk later? I'm in the middle of something important right now.
Yeah.
So definitely get those things out of the way at the beginning before it starts. And you've got plenty of time. I have tons of materials in the course on the Flex specifically. And so you'll be able to make yourself aware of all the details before you take it.
Yeah, I've seen that. So, again, I've really just kind of, what's been really helpful, and I'll let you go because I know you're really busy, but again, I just so appreciate finally getting the chance to meet you. And as I said, I've been kind of looking at your blog early on, and I've seen all these advancements. So I've seen you become, go from kind of, beginning this process and then technologically advancing, and really it looks really wonderful and well designed right now. So I've seen that evolution in your own development of the course. And, I teach fully online. So I get the amount of time and effort that goes into not just posting stuff, but, having making it not only aesthetically pleasing, but follow, a format and taking that time. So I'm ready to hit it. I think one thing that has really helped me at this early stage, because now I'm really kind of getting disciplined, are your calendars. So I've kind of begun with the 4-month, and I've just started that last week. And, obviously I'm in the course now. So I've started to kind of take a look at your, I'm going through the lessons and stuff like that. And for me, it's not the overall complexity of the exam, but I'll be honest, what I think has stressed me out is just the timing. And I've been, and I really love your approach of like, everyone else is saying, take the diagnostic. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet for that, because I haven't really acquired those kind of preliminary basic skills to kind of even begin timing. So I kind of like your approach of kind of, doing untimed, practicing the techniques and then getting to a point of feeling more comfortable. And time is still going to be, an added pressure, but you need to understand the exam and its nuances first, I think, like you say, before kind of diving right into the diagnostic. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm a person that really benefits from kind of a schedule. And at least for now, it'll help me navigate my time and, continue to be, a parent and, a faculty member and all these other things that I do. But, you also give a very good message of like, don't let this overwhelm you. So that's, I'm trying to take all these messages and kind of put them in a way, but yet don't underestimate the exam. You know what I mean? And so I'm just ready to go and ready to take it on and be incremental, but focused at the same time. So that's where I'm at.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really excited to have you in the course. I'm glad you're finding the schedule and the course videos and organization and everything useful. So come to class. We have plenty of classes going on every week, and I'll see you there.
Yeah, that sounds great. I've just started looking at those. So I probably, going to start being serious about those. I can't go to all of them, of course. But, I think once I get those fundamentals down, I'm going to start looking at those specific sessions that you have. And, definitely you'll see me increasingly in attendance. But once again, Steve, thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to working with you on my journey.
Of course, same. It was fantastic meeting you now, and I'll see you soon.
Sounds great, Steve. Be well.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.